Hello friends, Tom Downey here for NFL Daily on Chat Sports, presented by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. As we move further into December, we're going to have more coaches that end up getting fired. So although we've looked over the two guys that have already been fired, how about some coaches who could be gone next and who those replacements could be? So we'll turn our attention to the New York Jets. And Todd Bowles has not been fired yet, but he's going to be. The Jets are 3-9 this year. They've been a disaster, having a rough go today against the Buffalo Bills. I don't foresee the Jets keeping Todd Bowles. Now, the GM is going to stay. Mike McCarthy will stay. And the focus here across the board for the Jets is all about Sam Darnold. You have got to maximize him. He is your franchise at quarterback. That's why I think an offensive mind is the likely and possibly the only target here for the New York Jets. So before we get into the top 10 candidates here, do you think the Jets should fire Todd? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I think it's a no-brainer. Look, I think he's a good defensive mind, but the failure of the offensive coaching staff this year and the failure to develop Darnold in year one and just the bad track record they've had this season, 3-9, that's just not going to get the job done. Time for a new coaching staff, and they got to find one that sticks for a little bit because you got to give Darnold some time to grow with the same coaching staff and the same scheme. All right, so my top 10 candidates here, I did see some lists that had Jeremy Bates on there, which I think is insanely dumb to even consider. But at number 10, a more of a dark horse name. How about Brian Kelly? Now, just bear with me here. Think back to when Kelly led the Irish to the national title in 2013. He interviewed with the Philadelphia Eagles. There have been reports he's interviewed for USC or the Chicago Bears, and the report late in 2016 that Kelly actually wanted out of Notre Dame. Now coming off a perfect season for the Fighting Irish, his stock is rather high. So don't be surprised if Kelly interviews for a head coaching job. I think one like the Jets could be a good fit for him. So a dark horse, but a name just to watch out for. So we'll get going now with our heavy offensive list here for the Jets. How about Matt LaFleur? And I'll be honest, I'm not as convinced on LaFleur right now, and he's done a better job as of late, but the Titans' offense has really not been that good this year. It's been up and down a little bit. It's very much a high-risk, high-reward type of hire if the Jets do go this route. I wouldn't love it. I think he needs more time as an OC. Needs to be a little bit more better as a play caller. Has not been all that impressive so far for Tennessee. Now, the coaching tree is a good one, McVay and Shanahan, but I think the Jets can find a better OC than LaFleur, even though he does fit that young offensive mind who's very, very young, and the NFL loves that right now given the success with Sean McVay. Number 8 now, I think a coach the Jets fans should know, Brian Daboll, the Bills offensive coordinator. Good coaching tree success again, Saban and Belichick. Former Jets quarterback coach, which maybe is an issue there because he coached under Mangini. Here's the deal for Brian Daboll. I have been very impressed by how he has done as the Bills, or what he's done as the Bills offensive coordinator. The Bills receiving core in the ground game outside of LaShawn McCoy, who's been banged up for a good portion of the season at times, it's not good. There are not skill-position guys. It's a bad offensive line. The Bills' offense has exceeded expectations for me, and I think Brian Daboll's a big reason behind that. Has plenty of OC experience, was the OC at Bama for a little bit as well. So if you want an offensive mind that's a little bit more under the radar, hasn't been discussed as much as some other guys we'll get to here, I think Brian Daboll is a good fit for New York. All right, number 7, how about Eric Bieniemy? And look, the Chiefs' classic, offensive coordinator, that's been a stepping stone job as of late. So for Bieniemy here, my big concern is he's not the play caller right now. And I would like to hire guys that are the play caller. And even though it's Andy Reid, the coaching tree, I get that. Bieniemy's drawn a lot of buzz this year. Don't be surprised if at the very least he does get interviewed. After all, he would satisfy the Rooney Rule requirements. All right, folks, today's show is brought to you by BetDSI, chatsports.com/bet. Promo code LIVE120 gets you a 120% deposit bonus. Put down $50, they're going to give you $60. Put down $100, and they'll give you $120. Put down $500 to bet with, they'll give you an extra $600 on BetDSI. But you got to use that promo code LIVE120 at chatsports.com/bet. All right, number 6, another more of a dark horse name, but he's going to get interviews, I think, this year. He got interviews last year. Matt Rhule. Don't let the record fool you. I know you see 35 and 40, you go, oh, that's not good at all. Why would I want that? Well, ignore the first 2 years at a bad Temple program and a nearly dead Baylor program. He's gone 32 and 19. He got Baylor to a bowl game this year, and that's a pretty darn impressive accomplishment given how bad Baylor, their entire program, was in after the Art Browse disaster. So he interviewed for the Colts job last year. By the way, he grew up in New York City. One note here to just keep an eye on for potential future gigs here. he does have some ties to Tom Coughlin, which might be an issue there for the Jets. He was a candidate for the Giants job when it last opened up, but didn't end up going there. Now, speaking of that Giants job, which is not open right now, which job is better? I'm trying to stoke you Giants and Jets fans there in the comment section. Type J for the Giants, G for the Giants, and J for the Jets. There we go. Words are hard for me. Anyway, let me know which job you think is better. Into the top 5 now. Again, offensive minds dominate this list. I think that's where the Jets are going to go. If looking for a defensive guy, Chris Richard, Brian Flores, George Edwards, and so on, I think also make some sense. Here's a former head coach, Mike McCarthy, that I think would be a good fit for Sam Darnold if McCarthy can kind of get back to the good old days from his time in Green Bay. Look, the Packers, for good reason, fired McCarthy. Things had fallen apart. But 13 years in one spot is actually incredibly high in the NFL. The turnover is much shorter than that in most cases. So McCarthy had success in Green Bay, and the hope, of course, if you hire him, is that you end up getting an Andy Reid type scenario. And I think you could get that with McCarthy. He will draw interest. I think the Jets are a logical landing spot for him. I put him actually at number 2 on my list of landing spots for Mike McCarthy. All right, number 4, how about Matt Campbell? And don't rule him out. I know you're going to say, oh, well, what about this? 19-18 in 3 years at Iowa State? That's barely 500. Again, 3-9 in year 1. And by the way, for Matt Campbell, folks, Iowa State's not a good program. This is one of the bottom feeders of the Big 12, and Campbell's pulled off upsets. He is very well regarded by the NFL and by college programs. I think he's going to get interviews this season, and given a relatively down year for coordinators in the NFL in terms of guys taking the next leap forward, I will not be surprised if you see one, if not multiple coaches come in from the college ranks. The Browns also make sense for him, maybe the Bengals too, since he is an Ohio native, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to go back home in that scenario. All right, number 3, a lesser name I think for most, but a name that I like a lot in this fit here, and maybe almost a fallback option. Zac Taylor, just 35 years old, is the quarterback's coach for the Rams, and your hope here is that he is the next Sean McVay. Now, it might be a little early for Zac Taylor, but that hasn't stopped teams before. And he does have some OC experience. Was the interim OC for the Dolphins, drew praise from Dan Campbell. He and Pete Carmichael also make sense for this job, I think. And the UC Bearcats of 2016, just 35 years old. I would assume that you hire Zac Taylor, you also get Press Taylor, the Eagles quarterback coach, his younger brother, as the OC. So it's a true trying to channel the inner Sean McVay, but at 35 years old, he does fit that young, promising coach mold that the NFL so desperately wants right now. Also fitting that mold, basically the top dream target for I think every NFL team out there right now is Lincoln Riley, and he has now quickly become the white whale out there in terms of the NFL head coaching candidate search because everyone wants him because of what he's done with Baker Mayfield and with Kyler Murray. Look, you get 2 quarterbacks win the Heisman Trophy. Yeah, they're talented. That's pretty damn impressive if you're Lincoln Riley. So just imagine what he could do with Sam Darnold. That would be a great hire for the Jets, but I don't know if they'll actually land him. I think Riley wants to stay in Oklahoma, and I get why, because look, Oklahoma's a great job, and frankly, a college football job might be better than NFL. You make just as much money, if not more, and I think a little bit less stress and much more job security at a top-tier college program like Oklahoma if you're Lincoln Riley. All right, folks, my number 1 target for the Jets, John DeFilippo. And look, once Bowles get fired and as the process drags on, we'll update this list. But for now, I'll put DeFilippo there at number 1. If you're a little worried about what he's done with Minnesota this year, I understand. I've been a little bit underwhelmed by John so far this year, but he is really, if you want that top young OC, it's John DeFilippo. And look, former Jets quarterback coach back in 2009, interviewed for jobs last year when he was the quarterbacks coach for the Eagles. When teams are doing that, it is a clear indication that they like what they've seen from him. They think he's a good overarching head coach candidate there. So if you want to find an offensive mind that you can get if you're New York and help you develop that guy, help you develop Sam Darnold, and have that focus on the offensive side of the ball, going away from the Todd Bowles defensive side, I think John DeFilippo makes a lot of sense. All right, so to recap my top 10 head coach candidates, again, a heavy focus on the offensive side of the ball. Brian Kelly, one of my favorite dark horses here for the Jets job. Matt LaFleur, Brian Daboll, Eric Bieniemy, 3 offensive minds. Matt Rhule has done a fantastic job at Baylor. Don't just look at the record. He's done a great job getting Baylor actually competitive, even how bad they were just a year and a half ago. Number 5, Mike McCarthy could be a logical target there. I like Matt Campbell a lot. Zac Taylor is, I think, kind of your realistic dark horse. Does that make sense? And I think that's a logical target there for the Jets. If they do want to go super young and find someone like a Sean McVay, Zac Taylor fits that mold. Lincoln Riley would be an ideal hire, but I just don't know if he's going to leave. We'll put him up high no matter what. And then John DeFilippo, I think, is a logical balance there. Gettable, realistic, and also a quality hire for the Jets. But folks, let me know in the comments section, who do you think will be the Jets head coach in 2019? I.e., could it still be Todd Bowles? I hope not and don't think so. Will it be an offensive guy? Will it be a defensive guy? If it's a name I didn't put on the top 10, feel free to throw in the comments section. There are a bunch of other guys that did not make the list. I'll be sure to chime in on those as well.